So, what was I saying before we got cut out? It had something to do with Horgan. Oh yeah, some people were making like fake tweets of him, like I guess blaming people for this, or like uh, like saying, well, kids these days should have personal responsibility and in order to stop floods from happening, which is what he said when it came to like all those people that died of heat stroke and whatnot when he refused to open parks during a heat wave. Was it this summer or the summer before? I can't remember, but it was pretty bad. And we talked about that on stream too. So it must have been this past summer. But like, yeah, John Horgan not doing a great job in terms of dealing with shit like this, and that's really depressing. So, but he called a state of emergency. We'll see what's going on, and we'll link it back to the wet sweating thing because I think his action or inaction is related to that. Everyone needs to build their own flood levees around their homes and carry a mini levee on your person everywhere you go. Yeah, pretty much.
Or maybe don't drain lakes and then be surprised when the lake comes back.
We'll get to that in a second. Although, like, that's a solution for this particular area, but I don't know. We could talk about that in a second. But this, we'll do the overhead for Abbotsford here and see what it looks like. And it's worth like highlighting too. This is mostly all like cattle land as well. There's a lot of cows that are not surviving and pigs.
There were a few videos of cows being rescued by jet ski.
Yes, I saw that.
We need to be playing this with volume, by the way. I don't think we're getting much out of the loud helicopter noises.
No, but
Yeah.
it really it puts you into it. It gives you the
Um,
full effect.
yeah, and like to be clear too, like they say that it's flooding in Abbotsford. It's the region like next to Abbotsford, because Abbotsford is a city of 100,000 people, and the city itself is on a hill. It's just
You
kind of like the farmland
you could sort of make
next
it
to the
here. I
city
mean,
itself.
the flood. I mean, it's getting really close to the city. So as you can see on this image here, like the
Yeah,
city is here, and like the flood area is like brushing right up close to it. So, well, at least it might
and
actually reach the city if this warning thing falls through. So this like shocked us last night was they put out a warning saying warning significant risk to life. Not very often that you'll see a warning like that. It was quite shocking. And the reason for this, as we're figuring out, is further up the Fraser River where this flooding is occurring. There's a dam, and it is
no, there's a pump
a
station.
pump station. Sorry,
It's a
and
pump
it is
station that constantly makes sure that the lake doesn't come back.
right. So as Vieno keeps hinting to here, this whole area where that's mostly in the red here. Actually, I think these tweets sort of better indicate it. This area that's showing up in this big red blotch. This used to be where a lake was, and the reason why it's red now is this is if the pumping station that is up here has a catastrophic failure, this red spot here is going to be under 3 meters of water, which is where the lake used to be that they dried up around the 1920s and 1930s in order
Yeah.
to make room for
And
the cattle lands that they use.
another thing that I haven't seen, like this guy talked about it a little bit in saying that like he's annoyed with some of the other coverage and wishes that he had like chosen to cover it a bit more, but I haven't really seen it from anywhere else. Is that so the Sumas, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that one. BC, whatever. Um, so Sumas First Nation, their reserve is actually within the floodplain. So they're at much higher risk than like the actual city of Abbotsford is because their entire like res has been put under evacuation order basically.
Does that mean
Because they forcibly put them after they drained the lake, they forcibly moved them onto that land.
Christ? I mean,
Yeah.
like that's the thing too, and it's like I mean, we had a bit of a back and forth yesterday. Like, I say a back and forth. It was like pretty casual, but just about like I don't know the extent to which this is like a complete disruption of nature, or like the resiliency of species when you do something like this and whatnot. Uh, and part of me is like, I'm okay with some geoengineering stuff and terraforming and whatnot. Like, conceptually, this doesn't bother me all that much, so long as it's done in a way that is like careful. Obviously, they weren't doing that in the 1930s when they did this, and so like there was probably damages to the ecosystems and all that fun stuff. But there's like an element here in which it also lacked the like the my immediate thought was this completely lacked any consultation with any of the indigenous communities. My guess is back then, because they really didn't give a shit. It's like, we will just take your lake that you used to hunt and fish on. We will remove it, take that land, and turn it into cattle. And then they probably gave them the shittiest part of that lakeland, to then like give
Yeah.
to them for the reservation, because of course they did.
Yeah. What was the other thing relating to that? Yeah, like that's a thing to like think about pretty much all North American infrastructure projects coming from like basically before 2000 is that like all of them were done often with the explicit goal of displacing indigenous people. Every single dam that was built during the original New Deal era was done to flood out indigenous nations or to dry up their lands so that they wouldn't have access to like historic cultivation so that they could be forcibly settled. And similarly in Canada, yeah, it's the exact same shit where like this used to be salmon fishing ground
Yeah,
and now lake it's a dried lake bed for cattle to come and like fuck everything up on. Um and also pork and chickens. Because I guess of around 50% of all meat, dairy, and eggs consumed by the province of British Columbia is grown in this
yeah,
floodplain
yeah.
or in like the
Bear
Fraser
Braun
Valley
says fifty
area.
percent of everything BC consumes in terms of dairy, eggs, and poultry comes from Abbotsford. They want to stay behind and protect what they spent their whole life building. I get that, but nothing is worth it. Yeah, that's 50% of British Columbia's dairy and egg. Wild.
I wonder how much this will shift like the British Columbian opinion on like indigenous issues and climate change. I think climate
It's
change
happening far
primarily,
too
but
often
like
right
it
now,
might
I
end up.
guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's like I really wonder if it will actually do anything or if it'll be like, oh wow, how sad that we had historic fires and heat waves and also historic rain and flooding all in the same 6 month period. What a coinky dink.
That's like a
Time
part
to
of
go back to normal and collect the insurance money.
part of me wanted like the reason why like I don't want to get, because I feel like some people will like use the angle in terms of the lake part of this story to point out of like, we shouldn't tamper with nature, or some like some sort of like view on that, where I'm like, I think this could have lasted structurally, in terms of like you have good infrastructure in place. But one thing that like the pumping station and the infrastructure does not take into account for is the fact that like climate change is going to dramatically fuck with the systems that we think are keeping us safe and secure. In that it's going to create more unpredictable large scale storms that are going to destroy infrastructure that wasn't designed to withstand that, right? And like that to me is like the greater threat. And it's also like sort of belies this like notion that somehow like, I don't know, you hear the theories of like all we need to do is like build like seawalls around like cities, like coastal cities, in order to like prevent like the seawaters rising and stuff like this. And it's like that to me is like, that is like such a loose band-aid over a huge problem, when like, what are those walls gonna do when like superstorms are randomly gonna like fucking hit them?
I
And like,
mean, the other thing too is like on that note of like seawalls is like How well is our infrastructure currently maintained?
Well, I think ours is a little
Like,
better maintained than
what
the
makes
rest of
us think that
society.
like they're gonna? Yeah, but like it's still not good, you know?
Yeah,
Like, what makes anybody think that like their walls are going to be like constantly maintained?
yeah.
Some government will come and they'll have to look for money cuts somewhere,
Well, that's what
or they'll justify looking for money cuts somewhere and then be like, well, we'll give a 10-year break on the walls. Like,
but that's like, and I don't know what the state of that pumping station was. But then I'm just like, even if you had like, what if it was like just constructed yesterday, or if it was like a state of the art like pumping station, would it still have been able to like withstand a month's worth of rain in a single day? Like what? Like my guess is they didn't design these things with that in mind, like ever. You know, look up Richmond, BC. It's a city at sea level that has a huge dike system. Richmond,
also, I liked Viking's comment of a band-aid over an amputation.
BC. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, the
Muta, one day the Netherlands will return from whence it came.
this is what Tukas is talking about. So Richmond here is this little piece of land there.
And oh, what river is that one?
That's the same one that flooded. I wonder, like you can see here all the
Yeah.
flood warnings. So there's a flood just outside of Nanaimo there. The flood in Abbotsford that we were just talking about. Uh, this is the one at Merritt, I think. One of these ones is Merritt.
Yeah, I think
This,
I don't know. It would be very funny if they
yeah,
just
this is
erased Merritt
Merritt.
from the map.
Yeah, Merritt is close to Lytton, which is the town that burnt down in the forest fires from this past summer. So and yeah, it's all along the Fraser River, the river. Which I also find it ironic that it's the Fraser River. My guess is the same Fraser uh, that shares a name with the Fraser Institute. Whatever the famous Fraser is that this is named after is my guess shared. I'm guessing. I don't really care about our rich Canadian history of colonization to give a shit who Fraser is, but I'm sure he's a wonderful human
Yeah, sure he's a real dickhead.
being. As the classic slogan goes, anyone can build a bridge that stands, but it takes an engineer to build a bridge that just barely stands. Yeah. I mean, it would be nice if, like, they could. I mean, part of the reason why you wouldn't build something that's, like, prepared for, like, a random deluge like the one they just received is because for cost saving reasons. And then, like, you measure, like, expectations. And I think that what I'm trying to get at is the problem with climate change is it creates so many uh, potential things that could happen that it's like it's hard to gauge that, but it's going to happen, you know? And which is why it's like we need to mitigate climate change, not do these like little things to try to like, fix it.
With oh, can you find where Princeton is? Because Hildebeest is mentioning that one. I guess Chilliwack also got hit by the floods pretty bad, and that's right next to Abbotsford. Um, the thing that's making me really curious now is
Yeah,
the
that was the
supply
one.
chain issues
Okay.
again.
Yes.
Um,
Sorry, what was
yeah,
that?
where like the supply chain issues, especially in relation to like what's just happened in Vancouver, because like you know Vancouver is now cut off from Canada as a whole by both rail and um, roads. And so, like, how do you approach, getting food to Vancouver when one, it's meat and dairy and poultry farms are gone, and two, like, you can't send grain because the railways are gone, and like Vancouver is luckily a port city, so it'll be able to like import a little bit. But the other option is like sending things through the U.S., which is very cost prohibitive given like tariffs and just border crossing fees and whatever else, and also how much longer it takes. Like, I
Well, didn't
don't
they
think it's going to
say?
happen in this case, but eventually we are going to approach a point where like some city is going to be completely cut off from all other infrastructure and just is going to starve to death.
I
Like,
don't know where they're at now, but they were saying that this piece of British Columbia has pretty much been cut off from the rest of Canada because of the
yeah,
all
no,
the
that's
highways
exactly what
that
I'm
were
saying.
destroyed. Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
visually depicting it for the audience.
Um, yeah, because the highway going down through the US is still open,
Yeah,
and that's the only one.
but all the ones heading
And
out here
so,
and like up there, they're all in
yeah,
various
like
states
most of
like
them
this.
of not existing, yeah. Um, the Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, if it were to the point of humanitarian relief, I can't imagine the US would be like, we're gonna still charge tariffs
Yeah,
or whatever the fuck. Like, we're Canada is lucky in that respect that it has neighbors that are like going to work with us. Not all countries have that, right? But also, like,
well, there's so
um,
much here. Like, it's even the fact of like when this occurred, because like as Hildebeest is pointing out, like the town of Princeton, like a lot of these towns are cut off completely because of this flood, and we're heading into the winter season,
yeah,
you know, and like people are going to be without heat. How are they going to get supplies? Uh, the animals are dying. Like it's just, and like the thing is, with winter coming, like how do you fix this before like the winter hits you? I don't know. Like these are
yeah,
like main thoroughways, like highways that connect you to like everything else, and they're just completely fucking destroyed.
yeah, and like, it's one thing for Vancouver, it's another thing for some of those smaller cities of like a few or a few tens of thousands of people where there is literally no road access possible anymore. Like Merritt at least got evacuated, and that one's only like 9,000
Yeah.
people. But some of the other ones are bigger than that and just as cut off now. They're just not at immediate risk of like the city itself flooding and like haven't had the whatever other stuff. Um,
Like I know they'll make it a
yeah,
strategic
like
priority, but like the two cars, but like something like this. Like the other thing is like you don't want to like rush it, right? But like you need to make sure that like the foundation is secure after this water damage in order like so that you don't
oh
build a bridge
yeah.
that's going to crumble right away, like, and that those things don't there it's not gonna like as much as like you want to make it a speedy process. Making it a speedy process causes other risks, so you're put in a position where it's like people are desperate for you to get the job done, but then it's at the same time that you don't want to rush this, right? You don't want people to be on a bridge
Yeah.
that is poorly constructed that'll just collapse randomly.
And the thing is like yeah, like this is the fall. What's the spring gonna be like when the meltwater hits?
Yeah.
Like,
Or when you get
and
another
then like,
storm,
I don't know.
fucking, or
Is
forest.
hurricane
How are they
season
going to deal
over?
with forest fire season once the winter finally hits?
Yeah. Um,
I don't know.
yeah, no, and like apparently a lot of these areas are like getting snow and whatever else now, so you can't really easily dig onto the into the soil or whatever anymore either.
I think you can already
But
see the snow
like,
on some of the tips.
yeah. Um, like there's this going on. There's the water crisis in Iqaluit, um, where, their water treatment plant failed. If something hit the East Coast right now, because like right now it's the military that's doing the water stuff in Iqaluit. What else? Like, they're talking about supply chain issues in Alberta because they don't have access to anything coming from the port in Vancouver either now.
Yeah.
It's all just kind of hitting, and also paired with like, COVID. and
that hit me today.
places being hit.
That hit me today of just the realization that this is all occurring during COVID. Like yesterday when we were
Yeah.
getting the news, it just didn't even hit me, and then I was like, oh fuck.
Well, and it's the BC interior too, so like it's a lot of areas that aren't heavily vaccinated.
Yeah, the runaway barge. Yeah, no, it's the barge.
No, Viking said, I love how this is an indirect way for Alberta to experience Wexit. Uh,
It's not Alberta this way. I mean, I guess that's the indirect part. Basically, most things from China, Asia comes through BC. Wild's how undercovered. Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. So any of the goods that would be shipped in through BC and then shipped to the rest of Canada, that's going to be
yeah.
messed up as well.
No, I think I'm gonna try to buy a nice PC hopefully on Friday, and that way because I'm sure that price is also gonna go up. And I get that that's lucky that those are my concerns.
I was
Is
so I've
the
been
computer price increase because of BC being destroyed?
I've been like following some of the supply chain stuff, and it's amazing to me how some of these people are like, "Oh, the supply chain issues will just like work themselves out." And then part of me is like, so we had COVID, which fucked it up initially. Then like we had what was the Ever Given, uh, and then you have stuff like this, like all the climate stuff that's happening that's like disrupting supply chains, and it's just at the point of like, when are supply chains going to be undisrupted? Like we're gonna forever be like under this like threat of climate change destroying your supply chain.
I mean, thing is too, like they act like the companies, especially like in this article and whatever, talk about how like, oh, we just gotta fix it up and make things all secure and safe and got to acknowledge climate change and whatever else in our supply
Really?
chain management. And it's like, fuck off. Like, no, that's not like the field of logistics itself was only applied to the civilian sphere after World War II. Before that, it was purely military. Um, but like the rapid supply availability, whatever bullshit, is a very new historic thing. And then they're being like, oh wow, we can't ever, change things because that might involve having warehouses or like building things in
Yeah,
place or like
manufacturing changes. Yeah,
yeah, like
we're gonna have to
oh no,
pay
the
workers
horror.
more in Canada to manufacture things. Oh no, it's like
We might have to
unionize.
improve how the docks function, let the unions actually have any power and not just get legislated back to work. Thank you, Justin Trudeau. Um,
What
that
is
was the Montreal port strike, but I'm sure the Vancouver port workers also are having a rough go of it. Exactly, Viking. The horror of the idea of having to think ahead.
Lord?
If you have to think ahead more than 3 days, that's nightmare scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it was also amazing too at the beginning of the pandemic when like people were talking about like, well, like everything is made over here, and now that things are shut down, like it's hard for us to get masks, and like it was almost taken as like that's just a necessity for how the world works now. When it's like, I don't know, you don't think that maybe we could have like thought ahead, and maybe like knowing that like a virus that would go worldwide is a possibility that could happen. Maybe we should plan ahead for those things and not just concentrate all of our medical gear manufacturing far away from us. It's like those.
Yeah, like that in terms of like, actual necessities. And then also like some stuff maybe we just don't need to be making.
Well, I mean,
Or
yeah,
maybe some stuff doesn't need to be instantly available all the fucking time. Like
Are you telling me that I don't need novelty snow globes? But what if I really want novelty snow globes?
I'm not coming for novelty snow globes, I gotta say. Those we can build at home. That one we can just transfer manufacture. I am talking about things like
Missiles?
fuck. Yeah, well, those are a big one, yeah, but like, also just like random gimmicky plastic bullshit. Like
Yeah, like
just
novelty snow globes. That's what I
sure.
meant by the novelty snow globes. It's just gimmicky plastic shit.
No. Novelty snow globes can be made of glass and they can be wonderful. I'm standing up for novelty snow globes. I don't think I've ever bought one, but they are a necessary backbone of human life, not just the economy.
So I went to try to find that tweet that you shared with me yesterday, and apparently that dude deleted it. But we were talking as well about like people with weird ideas of blame. This guy tweeted out who was like an Ontario public health worker, or at least a retired Ontario public health worker, who basically
I think he
tweeted out.
worked
Sorry, go on.
he worked in the bureaucracy under the Liberal government in Ontario.
And he tweeted out something like, "Yeah, I mean, it's like really terrible what happened to these people, but they have to somewhat take personal responsibility in that they, you know, climate change is also their fault for driving cars." And it's just,
No, it was they consistently vote
oh
conservative
yes, okay,
there.
that's it. They
And
consistently vote conservative, so therefore,
so
fuck them.
they need to take
Yeah,
accountability,
yeah, that's it.
whatever the fuck that means.
Accountability. You see, if you
Yeah.
vote conservative, you deserve to drown in a flood. That's what a great winning strategy. Way to win hearts and minds. I also love like that I said this to you when you said it to me. The extension of that is like all the left leaning or liberal people in the area who did not vote conservative, they also have to drown, you know, to keep them accountable for not voting
Yeah,
conservative.
the conservatives won the vote for whatever, with 26% of the vote. That's enough to kill everybody.
Yeah, incredible.
Another interesting thing on the note of like political representation. I guess John Horgan made a committee for responding to the emergency, and none of them are members of the legislative assembly from the areas affected. Like there are two NDP MLAs from Abbotsford, and I think one from Merritt or Chilliwack, and none of them are represented on the committee to deal with the problems affecting their areas.
Wild.
Ah,
I guess we can softly transition from that to this story here.
Um,
Unless you got
check
anything
your
you want to
Discord
say.
DMs also. On this note, I sent you the YouTube channel for Gidimten Access Point.
Oh yeah.
Um, and they have some video. They have their second video there was basically this article.
Okay, perfect. We'll watch that. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I could use this map. I believe the story we are going to be talking about now is roughly taking place in this area. Uh, Outside, I guess it's the closest town would be this Houston, British Columbia, but happening in this area. And that is the construction of the Coastal GasLink pipeline, which is going through Wet'suwet'en territory. Now, this has been an ongoing issue even prior to the pandemic. And at one point, I'm just going to boot my cat here because now she's getting annoying. We get it. We get it. Please get your nails out of me. There you go. Find something else to do. All right, sweet. Uh, Basically, they've been fighting Coastal GasLink, and there was like international protests that were occurring when the RCMP went in and forcibly removed some of their barricades, blocking the construction of this pipeline to go through. go through their territory, which is unceded territory. It was not given to the Canadian government through any treaty or anything like this. It remains theirs. And we've also discussed that like you're gonna find some people who talk about how the band chiefs gave title to the government to build these pipelines, but the problem is that the ban system itself was enforced on a lot of indigenous communities, and it's not representative of the sort of historical leadership of the communities. Hence, why there's also these hereditary chiefs that have been very vocal against the pipeline going through their unceded territory. So that's kind of where we stand today. Is them still trying to build this pipeline, and the Wet'suwet'en basically saying no, don't, and blockading them. Now, this recent, I guess, escalation is that they've decided to serve the workers coming onto their territory and uh, enforceably get them off their land. So that is sort of what's happening. So we'll watch the video, which I'm guessing will explain this a little bit more. But that's sort of like the very brief context of what's going on. Yeah, so we'll
We
watch it.
watched that one, and can we also watch the landmark one
Yes,
that got posted?
one day for sure. And I should
Yeah.
fill in like the reason why I wanted to cover this right after we just did the other BC story is like guess what? We don't need another pipeline. We need to stop climate change. We need to stop the kind of changes to the climate that cause the flooding that occurs. And so maybe we should stand in solidarity with the Wet'suwet'en in their struggle against the Canadian government, who is basically sending in the federal police to go take them off their land because it was unceded territory and forcibly shove a pipeline on their territory. Maybe we should stand in solidarity with them. And I wish that the NDP government under John Horgan would also stand up for this, but they've been very not great. Dare I say complicit. So here we go.
This is an immediate evacuation order for all Coastal GasLink employees and subcontractors. You will not be permitted to enter the territory past 30 kilometers. You have 8 hours to vacate the territory peacefully. Failure to comply will result in immediate road closure of Maurice Forest Service Road and Maurice West Forest Service Road. Any questions, please contact your supervisor. It's November 14th at around 8 o'clock a.m. and Coastal GasLink has been served an enforcement order of the eviction from January 4th, 2020 out of Cassia territory. The eviction order was authorized by WAS and read over the radio to the man camps and to all of the workers. The conditions that people would be allowed out peacefully are that the RCMP would not come past 30 kilometers and that RCMP or CGL employees would not commit any acts of aggression or violence in our territories and would leave peacefully. They have until 1 o'clock today to leave the territory, and at that time the road will be permanently shut down.
So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, then the question is how are they going to enforce it? They had part of the article had it wasn't this article. Let me see. There has been some confrontation that came out of this so far, although nothing I guess extreme in that sense in terms of like violence that has occurred, but like or like I'm talking about like in this current exchange. But they had, I guess, Coastal GasLink workers come onto the property with basically the injunction. So for those who don't know, there was a court order injunction from the BC Supreme Court that gave legally through the like Canadian system, gave Coastal GasLink the legal right to build the pipeline. And so there was at least an image of this briefly somewhere. Was it this article? Apparently, it's not this article. So many articles written on this topic. Although this
You want to
was
play the second video while you try to find the other article?
yeah, we'll do that. So I do want to say at the very least, they have used their the road equipment to break up one of the roads to prevent them from driving to their land. So one of the roads has been destroyed. But we will watch the other. And maybe they'll get to the road destruction. Okay, wait. On January 4th, 2020, Coastal GasLink was served an eviction order signed by the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chief. On November 14th, 2021, this order was enforced. CGL was given 8 hours to leave the territory and was advised that the road would be shut down
If they fail to comply.
if they failed to comply. We just want to talk with you a minute.
What?
Okay, so this is the confrontation that I was describing. So good that we watched the video.
Just want to talk to you for a minute.
Yeah.
Just
Can't do it. Road's closed, buddy. No, you guys can go. Road's closed. Road's closed, man, no matter what you say.
So we're here from Coastal GasLink Project. We are here to conduct work on behalf of the Coastal GasLink Project, and you're impeding us. Can you please move your blockade out of the area?
Nothing to say.
We have a Supreme Court injunction BC directing that anyone having no order are restrained from and physically prevented restricting
That's so.
conducting work. Will you remove your blockade?
Like, is he obligated to stand there and read this? Like, is part of the legal
Yeah.
formality that you have, if you don't read the whole thing, then like you can't do your next step?
Probably.
Otherwise, it's like, why are you doing this? Like, just
Yeah.
go away. The GoPro on their safety helmets is well, yeah, because they have to document this. Like, God forbid. They're and like you
Oh
can
my
see him
God.
tensed up. Like I feel like he's legitimately like shaking in his boots here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's a loud cry.
I like. Yeah, I mean, like, part of me is like, I'm saying I wouldn't be afraid, but that's because I'd be supporting them. I would at that moment they start hooting, and I'll just like rip up whatever I read and be like, "I'm joining you. We're in. Let's go."
As you're not removing your blockade and continuing to we'll be advising that we will be reporting this to the RCMP as a breach of an order. Here's a copy of the injunction. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, there you go.
Fuck yeah. The Mohawk warrior
That-
flag on the cat.
It looked like
my
this looked
God.
like Skylar too from a Landback Lane. So I don't know if he's out there.
Yeah, no, it is.
It is him. Okay,
He
yeah,
is. Yeah.
solid.
It's for
So
video people who don't know. It's Skylar Williams, who is the spokesperson for 1492 Landback Lane.
and they did a similar thing there as well, where they dug up the road outside of Six Nations near Caledonia.
Yeah. Holy fuck. This is so good though. Like, because they won at 1492 Landback Lane with these tactics, and here the legal situation is probably even more messy than it was in Caledonia. Like,
Yeah, I got an image here. So this is like, yeah, this was the image. Did I click the right thing? I wanted to make the image. Oh yeah, I guess I could have. Sorry, this is my newbie vibes here. Open image. So what happened here? This is like they dug up part of the road, as you can see, and then like threw a bunch of cars on the road, blocking Highway 6. I think this is. So this is like a pretty main road that takes you up from like the Guelph area down past Hamilton. So this is just south of Hamilton, I believe. And yeah, dug up the road and threw all this shit in the way to prevent people from driving on it. And eventually, this got resolved. The road has built, and I think the land development. So what happened was they were going to extend a land development into their uh, into their territory, and without consulting them that they were going to build this subdivision. And it turns out that the mayor of Caledonia had a stake in the fucking subdivision. So like it was just corrupt as shit. So tore up the road, threw this down, was like fuck you, and yeah, now the land development is not happening. So these tactics can succeed, you know. So, good on them. That was like last summer, I think. I mean, fair.
Yeah,
Like
that sounds about right.
south of Hamilton is like Highway 6 is like less busy, but let me see if I can pull it up.
They also brought back the blockade of Highway 6 in solidarity with the Wet'suwet'en recently as well.
Yeah, so you can see like Highway 6
I don't know
comes
if
down
it's down again, but
and then Six Nations. And here's Caledonia. So it was shut down somewhere along here. Yeah. Yeah, Dover.
I want to go out to the blockade so bad.
I mean, it happened at like a heightened part in COVID, which made things harder, like with me and the kids. But I also wanted to go down in solidarity.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it sucks, like with the pandemic and everything, but like we're all vaccinated now. Maybe we can next summer when things start heating up.
Mm-hmm.
So this is them destroying Morris Forest Service at the entrance to the. You probably don't want me to mute this volume because the aesthetic is worth listening to, right?
Yeah, but this isn't constant helicopter noise. This is cool destruction of infrastructure and also a car.
Yeah, to block the road. And then a piece of wood on top.
But yeah,
Or is that a road barrier?
I think that's a concrete road barrier.
Yeah, nice, even better.
Wow, that's so good.
So, yes, what happened last time? There was like major. This was like right.
Welcome back to Late Night, everybody.
Yo, what the hell is that?
So I don't know if you know this.
I don't want to be welcome back to late night. So for those who don't know as well, that like the last time that this happened and the RCMP stormed on was when people started doing the rail blockades across Canada, and that happened just before the pandemic hit. So, all I could say is if things start to heat up just as they did the last time, excuse me, get your ass out there and support. But we're getting an update about what's what. Alert! A chartered airplane with Canadian police has now landed at an airport near Gidminton. Blockade against a pipeline being built without consent on their territory in northern British Columbia. A militarized raid appears to be imminent. Well, we got another tweet from Nom here too. Urgent update, dozens of RCMP have deployed on the Wet'suwet'en territory. A charter plane full of RCMP have landed at the Smithers Airport with between 30 and 50 officers equipped with camo duffel bags. So police loaded onto 2 buses and unmarked rental pickup trucks and headed out towards the Yinta. An RCMP helicopter is reported to be heading to the area. Throughout today, helicopters have circled over our camps, conducting low, deliberate flights for surveillance. The road into Ayunta remains blocked by RCMP at 28 kilometers, with hereditary chiefs, food, and medical supplies being turned away. In the middle of a climate emergency, as highways and roads are being washed away and entire communities are being flooded and evacuated, the province has chosen to send busloads of police to criminalize Wet'suwet'en water protectors and to work as a mercenary force for oil and gas. This actually is something that I forgot to bring up, but like, I wanted to state, like, wouldn't it be ironic that in the middle of this flood, if the police send stuff, and I was thinking earlier today that this is kind of like the perfect opportunity to do the kind of demonstration that they're doing, because the police will be like needed elsewhere. But like, of course, at the end of the day, of course, rather than send fucking police officers, those police officers, to go deal with the fucking flood and help people, they're sending them to remove people off of their unceded territory. We will not back down. We need all eyes on Wet'suwet'en Yinta. We need boots on the ground. We need solidarity action throughout Canada. Yeah, Jesus Christ. What have to say about that? So yeah, I will keep everyone updated on what we do locally, because I'm sure something is going to happen locally. Very shock doctrine adjacent. Disgusting. Yeah. I mean, like, shock doctrine is something that can be utilized both ways, which is why, like, in my head, I was like, this could be potentially a good opportunity for do the kind of actions that they're doing, in part because police are being utilized elsewhere for what I would argue is a more important thing than the blocking of this pipeline. You know, people dying immediately of a flood, or this pipeline being put through unceded territory. What should weigh as a higher priority? But of course, I underestimated the extent to which our capitalist system is completely fucked and that we live in a petrol state. I underestimated it, apparently. So, there you go. I think COVID has taught us that governments don't give a fuck about anything but capital. Yep. Sorry, I was hearing noises out there. Didn't know what it was. It is their land. And it's also, like, ironic, because it's like, you know, middle of a flood caused by indirectly caused by climate change. And you're like, you know what we need to do? Send the RCMP over to where the people are trying to prevent future climate disasters by mitigating climate change. What we need to do is we need to protect the thing that's going to further destroy the climate, rather than save the people who are currently suffering from the climate catastrophe. What a wonderful fucking country we live in. Wonderful. Blood versus CG held legally on another nation's land. Yeah. What a wonderful. So, stay safe out there. What a note to end on, but what are you gonna do? What a Jesus Christ. I don't even know what to say about all this. I guess, you know, to everyone out in BC, stay safe and you know, pay attention. I hope Abbotsford doesn't get further overwhelmed if the pumping station does break like they think it's going to break. And stay safe, you know. And solidarity with the Wet'suwet'en, and I'll let you know if anything happens locally.
Hello, my rebels. Hello, my rebels. I'm a good boy. I'm a weirdo.